Greetings, M Squared here. Today we are going to talk about perpendicular and parallel lines. We're going to talk about their slopes and how we can tell what a slope of a parallel line or a perpendicular line is if we're given another line. So we're going to do that three ways. We're going to just work on slopes, then we're going to work on graphing, and then we are going to work on equations. So we want to remember that parallel lines have equal slopes and that perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Please notice this little symbol and this little symbol, two lines right next to each other. That's the symbol for parallel. So you might see that in math. You see it a lot in geometry. This means parallel, and this upside down capital T means perpendicular. So parallel lines are lines that never intersect because they have the same rate of change or the same slope. And perpendicular lines always intersect, but they intersect in a very special way. They intersect always at a 90-degree angle. And so they have opposite reciprocal slopes. So remember, opposite means we change the sign, right? If the opposite of 2 is -2, the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. But if we put those together, if we have a slope of 5, the opposite reciprocal is -1/5 because we change the sign and we flip the fraction over. It's called a reciprocal or a multiplicative inverse. Remember, there's always a 1 under an integer if you don't see it. And that's why the numerator becomes the denominator becomes the numerator. All right, so that's what opposite reciprocals are. So here we go. We're just going to talk about slope. So if I give you an equation of a line and I ask you, what's the slope of a line parallel to it? Well, then we remember, oh, those are equal slopes, so it's the same. If I say, what about perpendicular? You say, oh, opposite reciprocal. So I have to change the sign and flip it over or find the reciprocal. So the slope of this line is 3. Y equals mx plus b. That's the form it's in, slope-intercept form. So we know the slope is 3. So we know that since parallel lines have the same slope, this slope is going to be 3. And since perpendicular lines have opposite, positive, negative, reciprocal, 3/1, 1/3, that our slope would be -1/3. This is in point slope form, but our slope is still right there. So our slope of this line is -1/2. So the slope of a parallel line would be exactly the same. The slope of a perpendicular line would be the opposite sign flipped over. And I don't need the 1, and I don't need a plus sign. It's going to be, if it's negative, it's going to go to positive. If it's 1/2, it's going to go to 2/1, but 2 divided by 1 is 2. And finally, one in standard form, what's the slope of this line? So there's two ways to do that, right? You can subtract 3x from both sides, and then you can divide by 5, -5. So we can get it in slope-intercept form. And when we divide by -5, this is what we get. Or we could just say the opposite of A over B. This only works in standard form, but the opposite of A is -3. B is -5, so it's 3/5. So either way, you get 3/5, whichever way you prefer to do it. I'm going to be doing this little shortcut, -B over A. So if you want to do it that way, you are welcome to. But the slope of a line parallel to that line has to be the same. And then the slope of a perpendicular line has to be the opposite, positive, negative, reciprocal. 5 goes to the top. 3 goes to the bottom. Okay, that's our little intro. Now we're going to do some problems that you're going to see in your homework on Delta Math. You're going to see 3 different kinds. So if you got this one, you can move on, fast forward to the graphing one or fast forward to the equation ones. But we're going to do the 3 things that you'll see on your homework tonight. What is the slope of a line parallel? That's key. Parallel to a line with this equation. And in Delta Math, you'll see most of the equations that they give you will be in standard form. So I'm going to say, well, A is 1 and B is 2, because in standard form, A is the number in front of X and B is the number in front of Y. When you don't see a number, but there's still an X, then it's like 1X. So we say it's 1. So I'm going to say, oh, the slope of a line parallel would be the same. So that's the opposite of 1/2. So the slope of this line is -1/2. So that means the slope of my line will also be -1/2 because it's parallel. This one says perpendicular. So first I find the slope of this. A is 1, so it's the opposite of A. B is 1/1, so that's -1. But now I need the opposite reciprocal. Well, the opposite is going to be positive, and then it would be 1 over 1, but I can just say 1. The slope is 1. All right, a couple more and then we'll go on to graphing. What is the slope of a line parallel to this line? All right, the opposite of A over B is 1. So then the line parallel to that would also have a slope of 1 because it's the same. Parallel lines have the same slope. This one is in point slope. I thought I'd show you one like that. There's our slope. We need it perpendicular. So we're going to take and flip 3 over, 1/3 over to 3 over 1. And we're going to change the sign from positive to negative. So our slope is -3. All right, so that's like the first few problems on your homework. Now we're going to move to graphing. So on the graphing problems, they're going to give you a graph of a line and they're going to ask you, what's the original slope? That's the slope of this line. What's the parallel slope? That means what will be the slope of a line parallel to that? And then they're going to ask you to graph a line using your the graphing feature that's parallel to this. And you can really do it anywhere you want. So the first step is to find the slope. So I look for where it crosses a grid. Looks like right here. So I always want to double check. So that's up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 4. So that's a positive 1/4. But then I keep going. If I go 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I do it a couple times, then I can just make sure that that is really correct. So the original slope is 1/4, which means the parallel slope is going to be the same. So I just randomly pick a point anywhere on the graph, and I just say, okay, go up 1 over 4, up 1 over 4, and that line should be parallel. And then I'm going to take my ruler and connect the dots. Obviously, you don't have to do this because you can do it on the computer, but that line is parallel to that one. And like I said, you can put the parallel line above, below, anywhere you want. All right, so this one says graph a line that's perpendicular to this line. So what is the slope of a line that's vertical? Hopefully you remember. You can, they're going to ask you, they're going to give you the option of undefined. So we know it's undefined. So we're going to put undefined. Undefined, I don't know if I spelled that right. But anyway, what is the slope of a line perpendicular to a vertical line? It's a horizontal line, and that slope is going to be 0. Obviously, you're going to put the number, not the word 0. So now we have to graph a line that has a 0 slope. So we just pick a few points and connect the dots. And you, on your, oops, sorry, on your graph, you will be able to do that fairly easy. All right, a couple more graphs, and then we'll move on to the equations. Graph a line that is parallel to the given line. All right, we got to find the slope. We know that's going to be the same, both of them. So we go to where it crosses the grid mark. There's another one. There's another one. So it looks like up 3, right 1. So that's 3 over 1 or 3. Our parallel slope has to be the same. This time I'll go below, since before I went above. I'll just go right there. So I got to go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, and I'm going to connect the dots, which is done for you on the graph online. All right. Finally, what is this graph a line that's perpendicular to this line? So we're going to find the slope. Looks like that right there, and maybe this. Yep. So right there. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 down. 1, 2, 3, 4 right. It looks like -3/4. Let's test it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. We're good. So the original slope is -3/4. That means the perpendicular slope has to be the flipped over opposite version. So we're going to do a positive 4/3. So we're just going to randomly pick a point, and we're going to go up 4 over 3. We can do that again, up 4 over 3. And we are going to connect the dots, and that will be perpendicular to the original line. All right, so that's how you do the graphs. And now on to equations. So just have a couple of these. The first thing we want to know is we want to find the slopes of all of them. And sometimes they're going to give you them in standard form, and sometimes they're going to give them to you in slope-intercept form. So you're just going to have to make sure you remember how to do both of them. So right here, the opposite of A over B is -2/3. It said parallel. So I'm looking for the one that has a -2/3. There it is. This one says perpendicular, so I know I need to find the slope. Look, it's not in any form. So if I add 5x to both sides, I get y equals 5x, whoops, minus 6. So my slope is 5. If I wanted to the a over b, I just have to be careful. That's a. The opposite of a is 5 and b is 1. They kind of switch the order. So I know my slope is 5. Either way I do it, my slope is 5. Need a perpendicular slope though, right? So that's going to change signs and be flipped over. So I'm looking for the one that has negative 1/5. Now sometimes on Delta Math's homework, these are all going to be in standard form. So you're going to have to find the slope, the negative b over 2a for all of those to match the one you need. But it's always good to write down the one you need. All right, so that is our introduction to parallel and perpendicular lines. And next time we will write equations. So M squared, signing out.